song.
All of Jessica Leia's music that you hear on Me and My Song is available for purchase online. And now, please enjoy the show.
The lyrics in this month's song, Long Enough, say, I got no chip on my shoulder. And I just thought I'd point that out here because ironically enough, I was literally making chips when this month's song, Long Enough, was ever even born.
Kind of stale.
It wasn't due to the fact that I was making chips when this song was born that I created the lyric, I got no chip on my shoulder. That was totally coincidence, and I actually only recently made the connection. I'm actually a little ashamed to admit that it was actually an accident that this song says, I got no chip on my shoulder, and yet was created whilst I was in the process of cooking chips. Would have been a great pun to take credit for.
Oh,
I could probably take credit for it subconsciously, accidentally on purpose though, since I do have the make stupid puns switch flipped on in my brain 24/7. So, just like the lyric of this song also says, a couple guys were really pissing me off. And a couple guys really were pissing me off.
Oh my.
In order to protect their identity, I won't mention who it was specifically that was really pissing me off, especially since it's a very rare thing for people to actually piss me off. Almost never happens.
Huh? There's
also a sarcasm button turned on in my brain 24/7.
Oh.
Just so you know. Suffice it to say, they really pissed me off. And as such, in this particular scenario, I went off to go sulk and skulk.
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
And I knew these guys, and after a while of sulking and skulking, I could hear these guys off in the distance, laughing and having a good time. Can you believe the nerve of the out there having fun while I was caught sulking and skulking?
Huh?
So noticing this particular scene that I had painted for myself in my life at that moment, I started shaking my head at myself. And I was like, Jessica, you are sitting in here sulking and skulking while they're out there having a good time. Do you think maybe you could let go of all of this sulking and skulking so that you could go out there and have a good time with those? Because that kind of looks like your choices right now. Stay in here and sulk and skulk, or let it go and go out there to frolic in the meadow. I didn't literally frolic in a meadow, not this time around. But I did make chips.
Oh.
That's right, because there were a lot of people around in this particular scenario of which I speak, but not very much food. And I happen to have some tortillas with me.
What?
What, you don't ever have random tortillas with you when you go places?
No.
So I decided as my get over it therapy, I was gonna chop those tortillas up, throw them into a frying pan, and cook up some scrum-diddly-umptious chips. And everybody loved them. Everybody was like, oh man, these chips are so good. And I was like, hey, all organic, cooked in healthy oil, sprinkled with sea salt. Those chips were a hit. And you know what? It was so much more fun to do that instead of sitting around sulking and skulking.
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
Now, I really lucked out growing up because my family were a bunch of dickheads. Don't worry, they're all really awesome now. They really are. But I was really lucky because when I was a kid, nobody gave a shit how I felt.
Huh?
Like, they just didn't care.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
So when I would get upset about things, which was often, nobody tried to make me feel better about it. To be fair, sometimes my mom would really try. if she happened to be on the sunny side of manic that day. But mostly when I was upset and acting that out and expressing it, I would just get voted off the island.
You're out of
Like,
there.
ostracized from the village, you know? Like if I was a native in the old days, they probably would have sent me out to the forest by myself until I got my shit together and could come back to the village. Except I wasn't a native in the old days, so I'd just get sent to my room, mostly. So whether my feelings were justified or not, if they happened to be shitty feelings, nobody in any way, shape, or form was gonna deal with those shitty feelings for me. So as a result, I was blessed with years of experience being miserable by myself.
What?
Sulking and skulking.
Yay!
You know what happens after years of experience of sulking and skulking all by yourself? Well, unfortunately, you actually end up training your brain to become habituated and even addicted to firing synaptic responses that create chemical cascades that are really bad for your health and well-being, which you ultimately have to train your brain out of so that you don't become chronically ill and or just like a mean, grumpy person permanently. But you know what else happens after years of experience of sulking and skulking? You get tired of it. Because after spending enough of your life doing that, you eventually realize that it leads to nowhere. Hate that place. Hate it. And I had long since realized that by the time I wrote this song, Long Enough. And I had actually literally trained my brain to get so good at letting things go that sometimes I would run into people at the grocery store who had totally screwed me over years prior, and I'd run up to them and give them a hug and be super nice, and we'd have a great conversation. And then later I'd go home and think about it and be like, yeah, I shouldn't have been so nice to that person. Because, you know, letting things go does not mean that you're cool with people being douchebags. The difference. In fact, just for the record, before I go any further, I'm not saying that it's bad to get pissed off. I'm not saying that at all. If someone violates your boundaries or tries to sacrifice your principles, get pissed off. Get pissed off. Yeah. Don't let those push you around. Getting pissed off is a great way to not let people push you around. But in this month's song, Long Enough, when I say I ain't holding no grudge, I'm talking about that long-term hurt and anger that people tend to hang on to
Forever.
And ever. And ever. And ever. And ever. Guys.
And here's the big difference between the two. If you get angry at somebody because they kick you in the balls or ovaries, that's good anger. Because that anger is going to help you protect and defend your future children.
Oh.
But the irony is, if someone kicks you in the balls or ovaries and you're still pissed off about it 10 years later, now you are the one who is potentially causing damage to your future children. Totally true. Chronic anger and judgment and grudges negatively impact all body systems, up to and including your balls and ovaries.
Oh my.
Scientific fact right there. All I'm saying is, a guy kicks you in the balls, shame on him. A guy kicks you in the balls and you're still pissed off about it 10 years later? Shame on you. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that it's cool or a good thing that that guy kicked you in the balls. You should probably not be friends with that guy anymore, lest he kick you in the balls again.
Ow.
So, you know, I wanted to wrap things up here on season 3 with this month's song, Long Enough, because I thought it would be a good note to end things on. Because, you know, we've all been through a lot as humans. We've all had our balls and ovaries kicked so many times.
Ow.
But I see a lot of people hanging on to grudges, and it kind of makes me sad.
Aww.
But not like the hang on to it forever, long-term, chronic kind of sadness. Just so you know. But I can't help but to feel sad when I see people caught up in all their anger and resentment over stuff that's already said and done. Through with, like it's over now. Kaput. Done. D-U-N. Done. Of course you're not gonna let it happen again. But no one, and I mean no one, in the whole wide world has to be chronically angry all the time in order to ensure that they don't get kicked in the balls again.
Ow.
Or ovaries.
Oh my.
Chronic anger will literally destroy you while the guy who kicked you in the balls goes off and lives a happy little life. Okay, I'll stop talking about balls now.
Thanks.
Would you stop saying that? Let me just spit a couple facts at you real quick to increase your comprehensionizing about why we're all much better off not having a chip on our shoulder. Like I was mentioning, the effects of chronic anger damages all body organs and is a significant risk factor for all illnesses, including heart disease and diabetes and irritable bowel syndrome. I found it very interesting how suddenly everybody was really interested in their immune system when 2020 rolled around. But the immune system was actually very way interesting before 2020 even happened.
Cause guess what? What?
If you're mad all the time, you're probably gonna find yourself being sick more often. In one study done at Harvard, scientists found that in healthy people who just remembered some incidents that made them really angry, they had a 6-hour drop in the antibody
Immunoglobulin.
In other words, just reliving something that pisses you off in your mind makes your immune system drop like all day long. Like being pissed off opens your gates wide open for the bad guys to come in and attack you. Don't worry, there's tons of ways that you can boost that immune system back up, like maybe by laughing a little bit, or some like breathing, and you could listen to some music, like this month's song, Long Enough. In the lyrics of this month's song, Long Enough, I also say that my blood was so hot and heavy I could hardly breathe.
You know what?
Even if you're not a smoker, if you're a perpetually angry and hostile person, you are causing damage to your lungs. In another study done with men over the course of 8 years, the guys who had the highest hostility ratings, the guys that were just had a serious decrease in lung capacity, which seriously increased their risk of respiratory problems. The assumption being that the increase of stress hormones associated with anger and such creates a bunch of inflammation in the airways.
Inflammation is bad juju.
Don't get inflamed. So what I gathered from that study is if you're pissed off all the time, you just may as well become a smoker.
Huh?
Just kidding, don't do it. Don't smoke. If you do, you can quit. You can quit that nasty habit. I know you can. I know you can do it. I know you can. Chronic grudges, being pissed off, being depressed, stressing the out, literally makes your DNA incapable of doing its job. When people say they're so wound up tight, they don't know how right they are.
Look, I'm happy DNA. I'm flowing and doing my job because I am able to move freely and be happy DNA. Look, I'm angry DNA. I cannot move. I cannot do stuff. I'm so wound up tight that I cannot do my job. Oh my God.
But if you want, you can easily enough do your research on why it is absolutely, hands down, no questions about it, way better for you to not have a chip on your shoulder. Well, you know, a real good reason why not to have a chip on your shoulder is so that you're just not grumpy all the time and kind of a jerk. That's a good reason. You know you're just helping the dark side when you do that shit, right? Darth Vader thanks you. Now, I know that letting go of grudges is not the easiest thing in the world to do. Sometimes I use EFT to help me let go of grudges.
Even though everybody is I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though everybody is I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though everybody is I deeply and completely accept myself. Everybody is
Sometimes I take herbs and amino acids to boost the happy chemicals in my brain. Sometimes I just cry. Sometimes I do push-ups. Sometimes I do both of those things at the same time. Just something so I'm not hanging on to that shit, you know? Just, ugh. And you know what else really helps you just like let it go and get yourself in a better place? Music. I know you're totally surprised that I said that. I know. You are. You're surprised. I like to surprise you sometimes. This month's song is called Long Enough because I had decided after all my years of being miserable and sulking and skulking that I had contributed to that shit cloud of shit energy on this planet for long enough. That's it. Not doing it anymore. I mean, it doesn't mean like I'm 100% happy all the time, but you know what I mean, okay? I'm not going to walk around with a chip on my shoulder.
Get off!
There are yucky entities running around feeding off of those chips. And if I can avoid it, I am not going to contribute to feeding those little bastards. P.S. I've researched the origins of where the term chip on my shoulder comes from, and none of it makes sense to me at all. I'm like, that really doesn't explain why this turned into you're a grumpy asshole. I got dandruff chip riff. Please enjoy the raw reveal of the last song in season 3 here on Me and My Song. I like to call it Long Enough.
I've been misery soldier. Well, just about long enough. Well, just about long enough.
If you get warm and fuzzy enjoying the work that I do here on Me and My Song, please go ahead and do all of the things that help independent artists like myself get our work out there. You know, like liking and subscribing, spreading the word, spreading the love, thumbs upping. Well, whatever you do, the most important thing in the whole wide world that I think you should do, no matter if it's out of style, out of range, or out of tune, you have got to, even when it's really, really hard to do.
Keep singing your song.
Me and my song.